وصحبه أجمعين ومن والاه. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربنا زدنا علما. Okay, so yesterday we stopped at Surah Taha. We finished Surah Maryam and Taha, right? It was full of stories, you guys remember?
Yeah.
Okay, today we are going to go over Suratul Anbiya, Suratul Hajj, and Suratul Minun. Okay? Now let's start with Suratul Anbiya. Anybody knows what Anbiya means?
Prophets.
Okay, prophets. What is prophets, right? Anbiya is prophets. What is for prophet? Nabi, yeah. Okay. So Suratul Anbiya was also revealed in Meccan period. Okay, again, just like the previous few surahs, in the last stage of the Meccan period, and Allah is talking about how in the surah starts with how Allah is talking about. It's a very powerful ayah actually. Okay, I'm going to read it. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. اقترب للناس حسابهم وهم في غفلة معرضون. Allah is telling that the day of accountability, the day when our deeds are being accounted for mankind, it's getting closer. And what?
Meaning the day of judgment.
Yeah, meaning the day of judgment is getting closer and closer. Yet mankind is being heedless. Heedless meaning we are not being cautious in our ways of life, and we are turning away from Allah and His deen, right? That's how Allah is starting the surah, and then it's also connected to the themes that come later, like the prophets being mentioned and all that. Allah is saying, in spite of the prophets being sent and the prophet Allah repeatedly sending messengers, mankind is still being heedless and turning away from the message of Islam and living on the path of that Allah wants us to live on, right? And how the disbelievers, they ridicule the message and all those things. Okay, another thing that is being addressed in the surah is the mushrikun. They're always trying to find ways to deny the message, right? So they are like questioning, oh, is the prophet a human being? Like, shouldn't the prophet be an angel, kind of? Okay, but Allah is saying, so if prophets were angels, then the mushrikun would find reasons and excuses to say that, oh, they're angels, that's why they're, like, even for us to think about it, if the prophets were not human beings and they are angels, then it's hard for us to attain that standard.
And
right?
then they would say that, like, I feel like that would be more difficult if they were angels, much more than them being
human beings.
And they would say, we want them to be one of us.
Yeah, we want them to be one of us, exactly. Now that prophets are human beings, they question that also. Okay, but if you think about it, it's Allah's wisdom that the prophets are, all the prophets and messengers are from human beings, because then they are more like, oh, they are from among us. They are leading an example for us, and they are just like us, human beings with needs, right? Like angels don't need to sleep, they don't need to eat. Whereas human beings, they have needs like drinking, sleeping, the desires, everything, just like us, right? So which makes it easier for us to accept them as role models.
Also, another thing that Allah made it easier for us to accept, or like the communities that have the prophets, like Muhammad was loved among his people, Yusuf was loved by his father, like they were always very respected
people. So especially Prophet Muhammad before he became a prophet, he already had a reputation. So it should have been easier for people to just accept Islam, but they still didn't, right? That just shows the condition, the situation of the hearts of the people.
And you could also think that Prophet Musa was from the people who were being oppressed, but at the same time, he was raised in the palace.
Yeah, that makes him also relatable, right? So, and then there's a passage that is being mentioned, okay, where this story is also talking about how if Allah wills, like only Allah is able to protect us and support us. Okay, without Allah, like that's what the ayah says. Ask them who is there to protect you by night and by day from the wrath of the compassionate. And it's so beautiful how the ayah is being mentioned. Who is there to protect you from the wrath meaning anger of the compassionate. So it's not just saying Allah, it's saying the wrath of Ar-Rahman. Ar-Rahman is the most merciful. He's the most merciful Lord. Okay, but using that name of Allah
makes us
Allah is,
deserve it.
Allah is saying that if somebody who is not upon the path that Ar-Rahman has designed for us, then we are deserving of that wrath. So the ayah says, ask them who is there to protect you, right? But yet they turn away, even though they know that there's nobody else to protect except Allah, right? And they still question and challenge and all that, right? And this is very similar to this, made me remember the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Because Ibrahim alayhi salam, he will make the idol. I mean, his father would make idols, right? And his community, his people would worship those idols, right? And then Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he got an opportunity, he breaks those idols, right? Ammar, did you know that story?
Yeah.
Ibrahim alayhi salam.
I heard that in Prophet stories.
You heard that in Prophet stories, yeah. So he broke the idols, and when
the
they
axe on the
biggest idol
on the shoulder.
on the shoulders, and then you know the story, right? And then what will happen when the people come back?
The people will say, who did this? And then they'll
Ibrahim alayhi salam say, ask the big idol.
ask the big guy, and then they'll say, you know it's not real. And then he'll say, then why are you worshiping?
Like they know inside that idol cannot do anything for
And the
them.
funny thing is, like God and whoever you worship, usually you believe that they created you, but actually they're the ones who are making you idol. So.
Exactly, and they know that. Right?
Another thing that in Ibrahim alayhi salam's story that's coming, that like when he was thrown into the fire is like something that Allah created, so it's like part of Allah's wrath, but at the same time it cooled down for him. So
that is also being mentioned in this surah, how Allah cools down the fire. Yeah. How Allah cools down the fire for Ibrahim alayhi salam. Okay, and then this surah's name is Anbiya. So a lot of the prophets are being mentioned. Okay, Allah is telling how Dawood. Remember when Dawood alayhi salam, and an incident is being mentioned. Remember Sulaiman alayhi salam, how he had the ability to speak to animals, and that is being mentioned. Remember Ayyub alayhi salam, how he was tested, but he was still patient. That is being mentioned. So I want to stress on that one too, where Ayyub alayhi salam is being mentioned, and how he had everything first. Okay, and then Allah tested him by taking one by one of each blessing away from him. And how did he react?
He was patient.
He was still patient, and he never questioned, why am I going through this? He just wanted to make sure that in the sight of Allah, he can become a successful person by not complaining and still showing gratitude. Okay, and then Ayyub alayhi salam is an example for us, because he was patient throughout, and then when he got the blessings back, he was grateful for the blessings.
And what makes it harder to be patient is what happened to Dawood alayhi salam. Like he had everything at first, but then it all was like it's like
Ayyub alayhi salam.
Ayyub
alayhi salam, yeah. And then
Also for Yusuf alayhi salam's dad, he knew that something would happen.
To Yusuf alayhi salam, yes, and when Yusuf alayhi salam was lost, and he was told that Yusuf alayhi salam died, he was still being patient. Sabrun jamilun, right? That just reminded me. I just saw the status that Hadia put up. and their mom just passed away, right? Before yesterday, and she's talking about how even like the believers are those who, when they are tested and when there's some distress, they still turn to Allah. And she mentioned an ayah in her status. May Allah make it easy for them, right? I mean, being mentioned Dhul Kifl. Have you heard of the Prophet Dhul Kifl?
No.
Okay.
Is he the one that you have to deal with the people?
Dhul Kifl's story is not really mentioned in much detail. We don't really hear his story much.
I haven't even heard his name.
Yeah, Dhul Kifl is one of the prophets being mentioned. What ropes?
Like that's his job, like he would make clothes or something.
I don't know.
Oh, that's
Dhul Kifl was Dhul Kifl, Idris alayhi salam. All these prophets, their stories are not being mentioned in so much detail.
Idris, many people still know about him and how he was the first one to use the
Yeah, but Dhul Kifl, Allah is just mentioning that. Likewise, we blessed Ismail, Idris, and Dhul Kifl. All of them practiced patience. Okay, so Allah is mentioning the patience of Ismail alayhi salam, Dhul Kifl, and Idris alayhi salam. We admitted them to our mercy, for they were of righteous people. Then Yunus alayhi salam is also being mentioned, and what he went through in the whale, how he left, and then he repented when he was in the whale's tummy. The dua la ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minal zalimin, that is being mentioned. Zakaria alayhi salam is being mentioned. Okay, all these topics we covered previously, right? But I'm just mentioning the prophets that are being mentioned in Surathul Anbiya.
When you think about it, actually all of the prophets were very patient. Like
Zakaria alayhi salam was patient to get a baby.
Yeah. Zakaria alayhi salam was a patient?
No, he was patient, like, because he didn't get a baby.
Yeah, and then, yes, he was patient, and then when he had a baby, he was grateful for that too, right? Okay. Now the next
Anbiya is so far the one that made me feel like most humble, because Allah is saying how many prophets, like just prophets he had. So imagine someone like I'm not, we're not even prophets, and so that this makes me feel like so much less
in all
of
them.
like not as significant.
Yeah,
It's just the
more
prophets.
humbling.
There's so many, right?
Now the next surah is actually mentioning. Next surah is Suratul Hajj. And Suratul Hajj is half Makki surah and half Madani surah. Okay?
So this is like right before he left.
Not necessarily.
Or was it just a part?
It's not like right before he left, but it was still in that last stage of Meccan period, but it's not like right before. It's not like, oh, the surah is being revealed and then after he went, no. It's not the first, it's not the last surah in Mecca and the first part of the Madani surah.
I just forgot that surahs are...
No, not all surahs were all revealed together, okay? So part of the surah was from Mecca, and then the rest were from like after the Hijrah. Okay?
It's a Maliki surah?
Maliki surah? Makki and Madani. Okay. So this surah, of course, from the name, Suratul Hajj, right? So Hajj is being mentioned in this surah, okay? And
Hajj has like many rulings
and the rulings and just the essence of Hajj is also being mentioned in this surah, okay? But yes, the way you do Hajj is being mentioned briefly in the surah too. Like why I say briefly is it's actually a lot of Hajj is being, but this surah also does mention the part where about Tawaf. It mentions about the slaughtering after the Hajj. Then we'll get to that in a minute. Okay. So now Suratul Hajj, I have special connection which I didn't have before, because after, when we went for Hajj, during those days of Hajj, the Imam would always recite it in Salah, different parts from Suratul Hajj. Okay, so and Hajj is again, when you are at Hajj, you are reminded of the Day of Judgment because of the gathering, okay, because of how Hajj just purifies us. All those because of all those reasons, you are reminded about Day of Judgment. And the surah also starts like that. Ya ayyuhan nasu ittaqu rabbakum inna zalzalat as-sa'ati shay'un 'azim. O mankind, have fear of your Rabb. The zalzala, the shaking, the catastrophic earthquake, okay, quaking of the hour of doom will be terrible indeed. Okay, so the surah starts with a reminder of Day of Judgment. Then one thing that we learn in this surah is also how the site for Hajj, it's not just a random spot that Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam just went and built the Kaaba in. Allah already had an indication over there. Just like how Safa and Marwa are there in Mecca, right? There was a place that showed that this is the spot where Kaaba has to be built. This is kind of the center of the earth. Okay, center for all the Muslims on earth to turn towards the Qibla. There was already an indication. And Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam, yes, they are the ones who built it. But before that, there are also reports that even Adam alayhi salam has been to that place. Okay?
Well, yeah, because he walked all around the earth, right?
So, yeah. So it has been mentioned that most likely Adam alayhi salam also, by the command of Allah, must have built something over there. Okay? There is an indication that the Kaaba is, it's like Allah decided the spot for Kaaba.
Like,
okay?
And if like majority of the world, like, and all the leaders of the world were like Muslim, then that's where they would make like the center of the world.
Yeah, and actually, of course, for believers, that is the center of the world. Like we have to always think. وَإِذْ بَوَّأْنَا لِإِبْرَاهِيمَ مَكَانَ الْبَيْتِ أَلَّا تُشْرِكْ بِي شَيْئًا وَطَهِّرْ بَيْتِيَ لِلطَّائِفِينَ وَالْقَائِمِينَ وَالرُّكَّعِ السُّجُودِ. Okay, so Allah is saying, remember, we identified the site of the, like basically the Kaaba site, okay, of the sacred house to Ibrahim alayhi salam, saying, worship none besides me, sanctify my house, meaning watahir, like purify my, sanctify means purify my house for those worshippers who make tawaf, okay, watahir baytiya lit-ta'ifin, for the people who do tawaf, wal-qa'imina, and those who stand and pray, wal-ruk'ai and sujood, those who are doing sujood. And so Allah is telling, remember when Ibrahim alayhi salam was told to, shown the site, and he built the Kaaba there, and he was told to basically purify the place. When you say purify the place, it means no idols over there. Okay. So what this shows is, so this is the part where, from this ayah that I read, is the part that was revealed in Medina after the Meccan period, after the Hijrah. So the the first part of the surah was revealed in Mecca. Okay, over there it's talking about, remember how we started the surah? It's talking about the Day of Judgment coming and how we'll be taken into account and fear your Rabb. Okay, so it's being, the topic over there is Tawheed and reminding about Day of Resurrection. Okay, now after this, the ayah that I just recited, that part is actually, from that part onwards, it's actually Madani. So what happened was, the Muslims, when they migrated to Medina, that first year Dhul Qa'dah came, okay, the months are already there before Islam, before the Hijri calendar itself, the months are there, right?
So before Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, people used to think there were sacred months. Like if they wanted to fight, they would switch up the months. So they'd say, okay, that month is right now, and then we can make up for the sacred months.
Yeah,
and they would keep doing it. But then the time that Allah forbade keeping on switching it actually just happened to align back to how it was in like the first sense, how it was before all the switching. It came back to how it was before, and that's when Allah said no more.
Yeah, we cannot switch months around. Like you have to be basically true to one thing. You cannot just
switch it around for your comfort.
Yeah, just like in Islam, anything, you cannot just change rules and change what you want to follow. There has to be consistency.
Because if it was still like that, then so they still followed that you shouldn't fight the sacred months, but they would just move it.
Yeah, but whenever they wanted, they just did it. They kept switching it.
For example, you can't say, oh, I'll pray 2 prayers and then I'll pray those 3 prayers tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah, you cannot do that. Very good example, okay? You have to be consistent with what you're doing. Okay, so what was I saying?
You're saying about the months, how they were the same.
Yeah, the months were the same. So when the Muslims migrated to Medina, when the time for Hajj approached, because even pre-Islam, there was Hajj, right? Since the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam, Hajj was taking place. And the Muslims knew that this is our right. Kaaba is our right. It's the Muslims' right. And over there, idols are not supposed to be there. So when the time for Hajj came near, they started feeling sad. Okay? They were like, aren't we supposed to be there? But now it's with the disbelievers. So they started feeling sad. So Allah is revealing and saying that Ibrahim alayhi salam was told to purify this place, meaning no idols and all that. So it's kind of Allah is giving them also a message that eventually, inshallah, it will come to you. Don't worry. Yeah, got it? What were you going to say? What did you want to ask?
Yeah, so the first Hajj where they'll make the treaty with the...
No.
That's way after...
That is after, towards the end of Medina period, right? Remember, throughout history, after all the Ghazawat and all that, only towards the end,
when they got more power.
That's not power, when more and more people came to Islam, and eventually it became obvious that, oh, Muslims are the ones who are deserving to take over the place. And it's not about power. Yeah. So Makkah Fatah happened. Only after that, Muslims were able to go for Hajj.
Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was only able to do one Hajj because that was like...
Yeah, and one Hajj is all that is needed for a Muslim. So Allah is telling them that eventually it will come to you. And so that's where, in those ayahs is where it is being mentioned that, O Ibrahim, make a proclamation of Hajj to mankind. They will come to you on foot and on lean camels. So Allah is saying that eventually, like, because of like answering the call of Allah, just like how Ibrahim alayhi salam made dua during the time of Hajj, eventually inshallah the Muslims are going to be the ones who will keep up the tradition or the practice or what Ibrahim alayhi salam was commanded. Okay, and that's what is happening till today, right? When we do Hajj, we are remembering Ibrahim alayhi salam. Of course, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi salam too. But Ibrahim alayhi salam, what he started and made dua, the sacrificing. And so all that is being mentioned. Yeah. So what were you going to say? What did you want to say?
Ibrahim alayhi salam, he didn't have as many followers as a prophet. So till today we still do Hajj, which he started.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why Ibrahim alayhi salam is called a one-man ummah. While he was alive, he didn't have followers. He just had his wives, his sons, and Lut alayhi salam. Okay, very few followers. His people did not listen to him. But because of his dua, his progeny was blessed, and all the prophets came from that progeny. And basically, we all are following Ibrahim alayhi salam. So it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't matter how things are when you're alive. You might not have. As long as you leave a legacy. The same thing you talk about arts, right? Sometimes, like some of the artists, they are not known in their life, but then afterwards they become known for their work, right? Okay, so that's kind of it. You just have to focus and be sincere to what you believe in, and of course it has to align with what Allah wants you to do. So Surathul Mu'minun was revealed in Mecca in the middle stage of the prophethood, like middle stage of the Meccan period. The first stage was when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did da'wah to only his family, the close ones. The second one was when it became a public proclamation, okay? And the third one was when they started, like all the persecution started, and it started becoming very difficult for the Muslims. Okay, the boycott and all those incidents started happening. So this surah was revealed in the second stage, kind of when the disbelievers and the conflict has started becoming. Has started happening. Okay, the conflict between the mushrikeen and the Muslims have started happening. Things are starting to get rough for the Muslims. So that's when this surah is being revealed. And do you know the meaning of mu'minun?
Yeah, the believers.
The believers. And the first, even though the rest of the surah then talks about the story of Prophet Noah and Hud, okay, and Allah says how Allah does not burden any soul with more than what it can bear. That ayah is also there in Baqarah, right? وَلَا نُكَلِّفُ Yeah, وَلَا نُكَلِّفُ نَفْسًا إِلَّا وُسْعَهَا. Like Allah does not burden a soul more than it can bear. Because remember, the Muslims are starting to now have difficulties. So Allah is telling to be patient. You are
That's
not
one of the most comforting.
so comforting, right? Yeah. You are not going to, Allah is not going to test you with something more than you can bear, Allah is telling. So all those things are being mentioned, okay, and Allah is giving believers glad tidings, okay. So the first 10 ayahs, and this is very beautiful, is and this is after Umar radiallahu anhu became Muslim, okay. So he's narrating how he saw this surah being revealed to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, okay, and like how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam looked at, you know, when it was being revealed to him. And he's saying how after he got the revelation, the Prophet ﷺ then said, 10 ayahs have been sent down to me that I'm just paraphrasing, okay, that the one who measures up to them, meaning the one who lives according to those 10 ayahs, will surely go to paradise. So these 10 ayahs are so important, and then he recites the first 10 ayahs, okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. قد أفلح المؤمنون الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون والذين هم عن اللغو معرضون والذين هم للزكاة فاعلون والذين هم لفروجهم حافظون إلا على أزواجهم أو ما ملكت أيمانهم فإنهم غير ملومين فمن ابتغى وراء ذلك فأولئك هم العادون والذين هم لأماناتهم وعهدهم راعون والذين هم على صلواتهم يحافظون أولئك هم الوارثون الذين يرثون الفردوس هم فيها خالدون. See, it's, last one is talking about.
I recognize it from other places in the Quran.
Yeah. The last part mentions how they will inherit paradise. Firdaus is the highest level in paradise, and they will khalidun, like they will live in it forever. That's Allah is starting with indeed, for sure. Okay, and Allah is telling muflihun. For sure, these people are muflihun, meaning successful. Muflihun means those who are successful. Okay, and Allah, the believers are successful, and then Allah is giving the quality of the believers. Okay, you guys want to hear the quality of the believers? The first one, what is the first one? What do you think the first one is going to be? The most important thing for a Muslim? Yeah.
To be patient, praying on time.
Praying, salah, okay? الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. They are khashi'un, meaning they are humble in their prayers. Okay, not just praying on time, but also very focused and humbled in front of, like really knowing that you are standing this in front of Allah. Okay, that's the first quality. May Allah make us all like that. It's so scary, like to say about it, because our salah is something we have to constantly work to perfect, right? Even though it's the most basic, the first thing that is mentioned for successful believer, salah. Then Allah is telling about those who stay away from vain talk. Okay, this is a very important thing. Like remember today, just before salah, we were talking about how some jokes are inappropriate, some usages are inappropriate. Whether other people are saying it like that or not, you don't have to just follow that, right? Allah is talking about staying away. الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. Mu'ridun means staying away. Okay, stay away from vain talk. Okay, then the next one Allah is talking about is those who are punctual in the payment of zakah. Okay, the people who are punctual in zakah. Then it's saying fa'ilun. They are always punctual. They're constantly in the act of giving zakah.
Wait.
Okay?
So does that mean like paying zakah on time?
Yeah, like you have to pay your zakah on its due time. Okay. Then Allah is talking about guarding their private, like basically keeping your chastity, guarding your private parts. Being modest, exactly. So it's not necessarily just the extreme condition. Yeah, it's not the extreme thing, the worst thing that you can possibly imagine. But even things like dressing modestly, having that haya, the way you conduct yourself, the way, yeah,
like everything.
Yeah, to have that haya and guard yourself. Pure. Yeah, exactly, be pure. Okay. Then Allah is talking about people who are true in their trust and covenant, like people who keep their promise. If you say something, try your best to keep that promise. Okay. If you have somebody, if you are in possession of somebody's amana, like somebody's thing, okay, somebody gave it to you for safeguarding it, make sure you keep it safe. Or you borrow something from someone, make sure you keep it safe. Okay, you have to be true to that. Okay. And then Allah is talking about the people again. See, because of how important salah is again being mentioned before Allah mentions how these people will get paradise. The last thing Allah mentions again is being diligent about your salah. The first one, Allah talked about having khushu in salah, and now finally Allah is talking about being diligent. So khushu is something spiritual, right? It's a matter of heart. The last one is mentioning about being diligent in salah. Yeah, 1 minute. Being diligent in salah is what you mentioned: praying on time, doing the arkan properly, the positions properly, like how you do ruku properly, how you go to sujood properly. Asma, did you hear that? When you do salah, there are two things that you have to make sure that you're being careful about. One is you're focusing on salah and not thinking about any other thing. Okay? It's something we all have to work on. It won't always be perfect, but we have to constantly work on. So having that khushu, that connection with Allah.
That,
okay?
Sometimes it happens to me, like in long salah, especially now in Ramadan and Taraweeh. Sometimes my mind drifts off.
Drifts off, yeah. So it's something we have to keep working on. So the first one is khashiyun. The second one is think about praying on time. All of us have to think about it. Praying on time, making sure when you're praying, how your positions are correct. You're not looking here and there. Okay, your ruku is proper, your sujood is proper. You say the right things properly. Okay, all those things are included in the diligence of salah. Okay,
praying on time and like what you just said right now is one of the things that Allah loves the most.
Yes, exactly. And that's how Allah ends those first 10 ayahs. And what did Allah say? What did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? These 10 ayahs?
These 10 ayahs will lead you to Jannah.
If you
will inherit Jannah.
You will inherit Jannah. If you measure up to it, like if you follow it, then you will get Jannah. Okay? Okay. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم.